Thank you. We will pick up with our second panel. We welcome Mr. Peter Bunce, President of the General Aviation Manufacturers Association, Mr. Tom Hendricks, President and CEO of National Air Transport Association, Mr. Michael Perrone, President of Professional Aviation Safety Specialist, and Mr. Ali Barami, Vice President of Civil Aviation and Aerospace Industries Association. Peter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Loviano and Ranking Member Larson, it's a pleasure to be here today and be able to discuss certification. Certification is a very complex topic, and it was very evident by the first panel and the discussion that went back and forth that everyone is very familiar with some of the impediments to the process and also the opportunities that we have as we move forward with being able to streamline certification. General aviation manufacturing in this country is extremely important. We're talking 1.2 million jobs and $150 billion in economic contributions to this nation's economy. But what's really important is, in recent years, 50% of the product that's produced in this country is going overseas. That's a great export engine for this nation, and that's why being able to get product to market is so important. We're one of the most heavily regulated industries that there are, and getting product through the system and through the FAA certification process has a tremendous impact on jobs. This committee has been extremely supportive of this journey that we are on with our government regulators in both Section 312 and 313. The last Congress in the FAA Reauthorization Act really put some focus on this. And then during this Congress, and particularly this subcommittee and the full committee's support for the Small Aircraft Revitalization Act is absolutely instrumental. That is just the start. We want to be able to extend that also to Part 27 and Part 29 for rotorcraft, and eventually to Part 25 for transport category aircraft, because this is a new way of doing business, and it's very important to keep aerospace leadership here where it belongs. But reform is extremely important. And let me put the challenge that we have in front of us in terms of different companies that we have out there. If we take a small company that's trying to develop a new technology, and Mr. Massey was here earlier, one company he's very familiar with actually looked at being able to put a great safety enhancing technology in their new iteration of a product going out the door, and looked at the length of time it was going to take to be able to get that certified, and just said, we cannot afford to be able to wait that length of time to introduce this new product. We will miss a market opportunity in our timing when other companies are introducing similar technologies, and they had to forego some great safety enhancement just because of the amount of time it took. You take another company such as one that's located in Mr. Nolan's district. It's their first foray into a jet. They've only produced piston aircraft heretofore. They need resources to be able to be devoted to them to be able to get this new technology and be able to get the help from the FAA to get that product to market, because they haven't done that before. Now compare that to some mature companies that are in both of your states or in Mr. Bashan's state looking at engine technology. These companies are very mature. They set up these ODAs to be able to go and have a safety system in place that recognizes that when they are doing something that they've done time and time again, they have competencies built up. So, Mr. Larson, when you ask that question about, what do you delegate and what you don't, this system recognizes that they have competencies, but when they're doing something new and novel, then resources can be devoted there. So leveraging resources becomes so very, very important. And the burn rates for some of these companies are very huge. When you look at a larger company, a burn rate in a development program is up to $10 million a month. And when it's extended out for a year, you're talking real dollars. When you're talking a smaller company and you look at investment dollars and the requirement of investment capital to get a return on investment, but you have to go back and tell them, well, the certification process is uncertain. It could take 3 years or it could take 5 years. That investment just doesn't happen because of that uncertainty. The return on investment is too far out there because of the certification process. So if we allow delegation to work through an ODA, we free up resources to be able to go to those newer companies. And unfortunately, I can give you a list as long as my arm of companies that just couldn't make it because they ran out of money in the certification process. So leveraging these resources becomes absolutely critical. Implementation is the key. As Dr. Dillingham brought out, we've started a journey, but it's just not enough for the FAA leadership, which I believe really is behind this effort and is in concert with us to try to make this process more efficient. But you can't just put out edicts from headquarters without putting in the implementation criteria, actually having metrics that we can measure and be able to come back to this committee and you all ask the important questions, are we making progress? It's got to be measurable. We need to be changing job descriptions. We need to be changing that culture. And you heard that in the first panel. Cultural change is the real driver to be able to make this work. And finally, what I want to emphasize is this gold standard. The erosion of the gold standard is something we're very concerned about. FAA should be the standard for certification across this entire planet. So we've got to make sure that we keep talking to international authorities and talking about the robustness of our programs and how we produce the safest products on the planet. Thank you.